Before going to consumption function, we shall define two major concepts. Number 1, consumption expenditure, and number 2, disposable income. These two concepts are required to define consumption function. We are familiar with consumption expenditure. Total amount spent by consumers on newly produced goods and services is called consumption expenditure. And from our earlier video, we have come to know that consumption expenditure constitutes about 65% of aggregate demand. The sum of income of all individuals of an economy is called national income. Deducting all sort of taxes from national income, we can have disposable income. Therefore, we can say pre-tax income is national income and post-tax income is disposable income. But one more thing is left. We have to add transfer payments to arrive at the disposable income. Transfer payments are grants made by the government to stimulate aggregate demand without expecting any service from the people to whom these are paid. Therefore, disposable income is the national income minus all sorts of taxes plus transfer payments. It is very important to know the disposable income as it tells us how much the consumers actually have to consume or to save. Let us now define the consumption function. Consumption function shows the relationship between consumption expenditure and disposable income of an economy. And the relationship between consumption expenditure and disposable income is positive. That is, if disposable income rises, consumption expenditure also rises. And if disposable income falls, consumption expenditure falls. We can show consumption function using figure. In figure, disposable income is measured along the horizontal axis and consumption expenditure is measured along the vertical axis. This is our desired consumption function. At point A, disposable income is YD1 and consumption expenditure is C1. And at point B, disposable income is YD2 and consumption expenditure is C2. If we move from A to B, disposable income rises from YD1 to YD2 and consumption expenditure rises from C1 to C2. Clearly, the relationship between disposable income and consumption expenditure is positive. Let us now see the form of consumption function in equation. Here is the consumption function. C equals A plus BYD. Here C is consumption expenditure and YD is disposable income. A and B are two parameters. And the positive sign confirms the positive relationship between consumption expenditure and disposable income. Let us now see the meaning of the parameters. Here, A stands for autonomous consumption. That is the consumption expenditure when disposable income is 0. And autonomous consumption is always positive, as we have to consume even if our disposable income is 0. Autonomous consumption is found setting disposable income equals 0. Here we observe that if we set disposable income equals 0, the consumption expenditure is A, that represents the autonomous consumption. B stands for marginal propensity to consume. The change in consumption expenditure due to the change in disposable income is called marginal propensity to consume. In short, MPC. By formula, MPC equals change in consumption expenditure divided by change in disposable income equals change in C divided by change in YD. As consumers distribute their disposable income into consumption expenditure and saving, that's why MPC is always less than 1. That is, rise in consumption expenditure is less than the rise in disposable income. In other words, the rise in consumption expenditure never exceeds the rise in disposable. As MPC measures change in consumption expenditure due to the change in disposable income, MPC equals 0.8 means if disposable income rises by $1, consumption expenditure rises by 80 cents. You can convert the statement suitably. You can say if disposable income rises by $100, consumption expenditure rises by $80. Let us see the autonomous consumption and marginal propensity to consume in figure. Here is our consumption function. The intercept of the consumption function on the vertical axis is OA. It measures the autonomous consumption when disposable income is 0. Again, if the change in disposable income is AE, change in consumption expenditure is BE. Therefore, MPC equals change in consumption expenditure divided by change in disposable income, or BE divided by AE. If we move from A to B, BE measures the vertical distance of the movement and AE measures the horizontal distance of the movement. And we know when the vertical distance is divided by the horizontal distance, it ultimately measures the slope of the curve. Thus, MPC is the slope of the consumption function.